Good morning out there. Today is Monday, April 28th, 2025. I'm Anthony, and this is Drive Dive. Today's topic, robots. They are coming. My goodness. I'm sure, right? I'm kind of late to the game on this one. You shouldn't be too surprised by that one. You know, as much as I want to live under a rock and sort of pretend it's not happening, but kind of be like, oh, this is garbage, this is the waste, right? In education, everybody's talking about AI, artificial intelligence, etc. And I wanted to share my experience so far with robots in my life and how it's so real that we do need to get out in front of trying to understand this technology in general, right? Robotics, artificial intelligence, right? AI-driven robotics, and just what it all might mean, could mean, etc. So for me, I am an Amazon Vine voice, right? I get to request products from Amazon. I write reviews, and I can sell the items after 6 months, or try to make some money off of this thing. But ultimately, I end up just getting things that I am going to use and find useful, right? Whether they're gifts or things I can use around the house, out in the yard, etc. And one of those things I picked up was a robotic, right? A robot vacuum. It's a 2-in-1, 3-in-1. I don't know what you call it, right? But it's an automated mop and vacuum. It's got these 2 mop pads on it to scrub the floors as it then sweeps in front of it. It's got these little sweeper things, and it sucks up dirt, dust, debris, and then cleans the floor with the wet mop pads all in one. Then when it returns to the dock, it sucks out that dirt and debris from the onboard dust bin into a centralized dust collection system. So it's so crazy how advanced this thing is. I mean, I just have to change the water, right? Put in clean water, empty the dirty when it tells me to, replace the dust collection bag in the dock, maybe clean the base a little bit, but that's it. I don't have to spend the time cleaning my floors anymore. I really don't. I mean, maybe sanitizing, right? I'm still gonna have to steam at some point, but I'm sure at some point there'll be a robot for that one. And despite the fact that this thing, costs $700, it retails for $600 or $700. I mean, it pays for itself over time. If you think about what you might pay for a cleaning service to take care of your floors, one robot does it. And same deal. You do it when you're outside of the house. And then, I was overhearing conversation at a soccer game this weekend. Moms are talking about how they make their kids, clean up, straighten up before the cleaning lady comes. I'm like, we do the same thing before I turn on that robot. And I can set it to a schedule. So then Friday night, we're straightening up, getting everything off the floor that might get picked up because we don't want it to get picked up, right? We value those little Legos or whatever, or because it may potentially do damage to the robot. We're straightening it up. We're picking these things up. I'm trying to clear off tables so I can, get the chairs up off the floor so it can do a more efficient job in the kitchen and everything. So it's wild, right? So, I mean, and that's not the first robot vacuum that we ever had. I might have picked up maybe a Shark brand, vacuum before they were app enabled and everything, where it would just kind of clean an area, or, it would do lines and everything, and it came with magnetic tape. But this one, right, magnetic tape to set boundaries, etc. The one I currently have just kind of scans the floor itself, and then in the app I get a whole view, the floor plan of my house, and if I change levels, it knows it's on the second floor and has that layout, that floor plan to follow. But it automatically detects whether it's on hardwood, tile, or carpet. When it's on carpet, it turns off the vacuum, so it's not, spraying water everywhere, on carpet. And you hear the vacuum, then the vacuum power, the suction power turn up, so it can more efficiently clean the carpet. So, I mean, the robotics and the AI-driven robotics are just incredible. I have another robot that cleans my pool. Yes, I'm spoiled or very fortunate. I have a pool, an in-ground pool, and I have a robot that cleans my pool. Drop it in the water, plug it in, it just does its thing, and all I have to do is empty the compartment. When it's done, get those leaves out of there. I can dump them wherever, in the compost, or just some random spot in the yard. And my pool's clean. It's just you call them modern conveniences and things, but between then I still do the pool chemicals and such myself. But how long before that part's automated as well, right? It couldn't take too much for I don't know, right? Like some sort of mechanism that tests the water digitally, reads it, and says, oh, okay, we need to add a pound of pH increaser, right? Or so many ounces or grams or whatever of a pH decreaser, of alkalinity. You have your chlorinator, your inline feeder that more or less does it automatically, but you can incorporate that into some sort of robotic feature that does all that stuff for you. Really adjusts it on an ongoing basis. So it's crazy to think of, right? And so I'm saying it's like these are modern conveniences, but what does that do for the people that you have maybe, or that some folks have been really fortunate to be able to hire to do some of these jobs, right? If you don't have to, if not as many people are hiring cleaning services, well, what happens to the people who own and operate those businesses or do that for a living? Same thing, pool guys, right? What happens to them? I mean, you still got your big jobs. I don't know if robotics are coming after pool liner replacements just yet, or how that technology might be evolving, but to really think about the economics of it, it's just incredible. And I think even bigger than that, I just picked up, since I'm never home, right? And if you've been following my channel, a lot of things we talk about are just productivity. How can I do 2 things at once? Jason Kelsey. How can I do 3 things at once? There's a Travis Kelsey. Travis Kelsey is the tight end. Anyway, the other guy's the center. But Travis Kelsey, right? 2 things at once. 3 things at once, right? How can I pull all these things off? How can I get everything done? And so since I realized I was really struggling, thinking about, when am I going to cut the grass, right? When I'm at, soccer practice, for 90 minutes, 3 nights a week, that would have been the time to cut the grass. What am I going to do? The mulching, the pruning, right? I do all of that myself, right? So yes, very fortunate, but also very hardworking. So, let's not forget that. But I picked up a robotic lawnmower, right? Short of the long. I picked up a robotic lawnmower. And I mean, this thing's pretty intense. I know earlier versions of this technology, right? You had to bury a boundary wire, like I was talking about with the floor vacuums. You had to use magnetic strips to kind of, keep it within a certain area. With robotic lawnmowers, you had to bury a wire. Now you don't, right? They're app enabled and Bluetooth enabled, right? Where basically I set this thing up, I walked around the entire perimeter of my property, and then around the driveway and the mulch beds and the deck, the paver walkway from the deck to the pool area. I just walked around everything. I forgot to walk around my shed and some of the flower beds there. I had to walk around later. I had to walk around we have a septic tank, so the lids over top that, they're a little recessed as opposed to raised, which I think they're supposed to be raised, but it got stuck there, so I had to walk around that. Anywhere we've planted trees in the yard, and I got the metal wire up to protect them, but had to walk around that with the robot, but all on my phone, remote control on my phone, just kind of setting a boundary line of no, don't go in this area. But once I set up all those no-go zones, or just stick to these areas, here's the boundary line. I mean, it just does its thing. It's just going back and forth, turning around and cutting to a prescribed height, right? I think the maximum height I can set it at is 4 inches. I don't know how low I could go. I just left it at 4 inches. And it's cutting the grass for me. And again, earlier technologies, maybe it was the battery, or charging capacity, or what have you, were some of the limiting factors where maybe it could only handle smaller lots. But the one I picked up can handle 1.5 acres. I'm on 1 3/4, but minus the driveway, the house itself, etc. It's just over an acre that I'm asking it to manage. And yes, yesterday I had to hop on the lawnmower, in the evening after changing spark plugs and things to get that thing started. I did have to, cut it the one time, at least myself, to get it to a height that my now robotic lawnmower can maintain. But man, it's a lot up front, don't get me wrong, but it will pay for itself over time. And that was the choice, right? Like, am I hiring somebody, or I was reading about these robotic lawnmowers, hire somebody or get one of these lawnmowers? And I opted for the lawnmower. I imagine that some folks, in my, financial situation, if you've got the means, might make a similar decision where, yes, $3,000 right up front, but it will pay for itself over time. Give it about three seasons, right? 3 years, but after that, I'm in the clear, and I'm kind of making money off of this thing by not having to spend the money to hire somebody or spend all of the time myself cutting the grass. Now, I do plan on still spending time outside, out in the yard, when I can. Like I said, the pruning and the pulling weeds and mulching, and maybe I'll actually get to engage in some lawn care, right? Properly fertilizing or what have you, maybe dethatching, and what's the other stuff? Aerating, right? Some of those things that I've been wanting to get to over the past 9 years that I've been in the house. Maybe I'll actually get to do more of those things now that cutting the grass has been offloaded to a robot. So it's unreal, and if you pay attention to headlines and things, I just saw something about like 20-foot robots that are coming after construction jobs and things, and you might say it's pretty far-fetched and things, but I don't know. I don't know. And you really have to start thinking about, long term, like I said, the economics of all of this. Like, what do these robot floor cleaners say for cleaning services? What do robotic lawnmowers say for landscaping businesses, right? The landscaping industry. I don't know, a 20-foot tall robot. I mean, is that taking over tree care? Like, do we not have to climb trees anymore? I don't know. So there's a lot to really think about. And then obviously there's the design, the maintenance, and all of that, the care for these robots. My understanding with it's interesting, right? The maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow more, since I'm already at 13 minutes, but that's just another aspect of now then the care for, right? Some of these robots and more specialized equipment. So maybe that's the industry that one goes into as a line of work, but then that requires a whole separate bit of knowledge and expertise, that your average, maybe I'll say layperson, doesn't necessarily have. So all things to think about, whether to acquire some of these robots to make your life more manageable, the ethics of it all, are we in making these decisions putting people out of work? All things to talk about, think about, etc. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching, listening to my rant, and allowing me to share my experience with robots, and how they've, been really, really helpful, I think, so far for me. But yeah, happy Monday. Comment down below, like, subscribe, share, etc. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Take care.